Good afternoon and welcome to the Camp Coralville Trailhead. We're excited to have you all here, and my name is Sherry Proud, and I'm the Director of Parks and Recreation for the City of Coralville, and it's my pleasure to introduce Mayor John Lundell, who will serve as your Master of Ceremonies.
Thank you very much, Sherry. Sherry Proud, I need to mention her right off the bat because she is the most terrific Parks and Recreation Director that we have in our state and Midwest and beyond. And she's responsible for so many things, great things that go on in our city, including this fine trail system that we're here to dedicate today. And she, of course, did all the organizing of this event. So thank you, Sherry, and thank you to Kelly Hayworth and the city staff. You all pulled this together and got us some nice weather as well. But first, most of all, I want to thank our honored guest that's here today, Senator Tom Harkin. Thank you for making time out of your busy schedule. I know you've made a swing through the state, and my friend, my hometown of Fort Dodge, you were up there yesterday, I believe. So yeah, good job. So, and of course, I want to thank my colleagues on the City Council and other elected officials that are in the audience for coming out this afternoon and being a part of this ceremony. We have Lori Goodrich and Mitch Gross and Jill Dodds, I believe, in the audience from the City Council of Coralville. We have, of course, Mayor Fawcett. He'll never lose the title of mayor, as far as I'm concerned. A great mentor for me. Of course, from the Iowa Senate, we have Bob Dvorsky, and House of Representatives, Dave Jacoby and Sally Stutzman. Dave Lesh is here representing Congressman Lobzak. We have some Parks and Rec Commission members here. Eve Casterly is here representing Parks and Recreation Commission. And Board of Regent Bob Downer's here. So I apologize if anyone slipped in and didn't make my list. So thank you all, and all the rest of you, thank you for coming out. A little bit of history, and then we'll get on to the ceremony. But Clear Creek Trail started back in 2001, so it's a little over 13 years old now. And since 2001, Coralville's worked hard along sort of a southern border with this. It's a full 10-foot wide concrete trail the entire way, and it connects basically Iowa City, Coralville, and Tiffin at this point. We just received funding for the final segment. That's so exciting. We've been working on this for so many years. The final 1.2 mile segment will be completed in 2016. And this will complete Coralville's portion of the trail. That's a total of 6.4 miles. And then it continues on and will connect with Tiffin, to Kent Park, and eventually beyond all the way out to the Amana colony. So it's a true corridor for bike and joggers and so forth to take advantage of. Of course, we couldn't have done this without our partners at both the federal and state level of helping us support this great project. And over these years, we've received about $4.5 million in both the state and federal funds, and that is really helpful. We couldn't have done it without our partners at the state and federal. And it's used tremendously. The trailhead here sees an average of 140 visitors per day. Well, in nice weather, so you can. It's really getting great use, and it's many people in Coralville come up to me and say that one of the strengths of our community is the great trail system that we have, and they just love it, and it fits so well into the Coralville, Iowa City area because we are such a health conscious community. Altogether, Coralville has over 25 miles of trails and other sidewalks, so it's just not this trail. So, and this trail, and it fits so well with Senator Harkin's passion for health and wellness. I have to go off my notes here for a minute because for over 20 years I've worked in the field of public health, and there's been no greater public health hero in Washington than our own Senator Harkin. We've when I get with my colleagues from across the nation, they are so jealous to have had of us to have Senator Harkin being our representative, and he's responsible for putting the P in the CDC. And what I mean by that, it used to be Centers for Disease Control. And Senator Harkin said, well, it's not just about controlling disease, it's about preventing disease. And so it's now Centers for Disease Control and Prevention, and that's what it's all about. And as a true public health person that I am for over 20 years, thank you very much, and thank you for my colleagues. So. Thank you very much. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to call up a couple speakers, and then when they say a few words, and then I'm going to read a proclamation. Then I'm going to have Mayor Pro Tem Mitch Gross make a few comments, and then we're going to give the microphone to Senator Harkin to wrap things up. So I'd like to introduce a representative of one of our great partners in this area, the Iowa Bicycle Coalition, Mark Wyatt. Mark, come on up. I don't want to steal your thunder, but the Iowa Bike Coalition has had their home here in Coralville for several years. You've moved a little bit around Coralville, but you have a home here, and you've been a great partner. So
thank you.
Yep.
Thank you. I appreciate you having me here today. My name's Mark Wyatt. I'm Executive Director for the Iowa Bicycle Coalition. I get to work all the way across the state and find a lot of different great things going on, but oftentimes we run into roadblocks, and I find governments or elected officials or government workers that say why we can't do things. But Senator Harkin's career approach has been why we should do things, and I think that's infectious, and I think that's why places like Coralville do great and amazing things. When talking about trails and bicycling, the list of why we should do this is it's a long list. Health. Right now, about 15% of our kids are walking or riding bicycles to school, and when I went to school, about 42% did. So we need to do things that make things more connective and more healthy for our community. Quality of life and tourism. I think some of my greatest vacations are when I get to my destination and I never touch the car for the rest of the vacation. Either I can walk or bicycle wherever I need to go, and that's just one of the places that I remember fondly. Connectivity, transportation choices, these are all important things to get people from point A to point B, and a community like this makes it easy to get around town. Jobs has been coming up more and more in the bicycling world, and we're seeing businesses that start to say, if you can't build more bicycling into your communities, we're going to have to go to a community that has more bicycling. So it's an economic advantage for communities to be building this, to attract more and creative workers to make their businesses more competitive. And then finally, economic development. We've done some studies that show that bicycling in Iowa is $1 million a day in economic impact. That's $365 million per year. And so it's a big figure that we need to look at and make sure that we're taking advantage of all this activity that's going on. So I think it's important when we talk about why we should do things. It made it very easy for me to say I should ride my bike here. I thought the instructions were mandatory in Sherry's email that we all ride. But the question wasn't whether I should ride, it was what route I'm going to take and what do I wear to get there. And so it makes it really fun, it makes it really easy, and I want to thank you for the work that you've done. Thank you.
Thank you, Mark. We also thought it would be important to include some other local users of the bike trail. I want to introduce Willie Oxley. Willie's is a student at West High School. He's an Eagle Scout, but more than anything, he's a bicycle enthusiast. And year-round, if the weather permits, he rides his bike to school and around the community. And he's an avid user of this trail, and we'd like to have him speak from a user perspective. Willie Oxley.
Hi, I'm Willie Oxley, and I'm the 15%. I ride my bike to school most days, every day in the summer. And some people think that's insane, but that's the best way to get there for me. I can beat the bus, I can beat the car, I can have more fun, and I can be healthier. And that's so freaking cool. And a lot of people say, you ride your bike somewhere. That's so inefficient, you're gonna be sweaty when you get there. And it's going to be awful. And I'm like, no, it's not. I'm going to have a huge smile on my face, and that's what it's about to me. And I just love to thank you, sir, because that's so awesome that you can do that through a political channel and help us enjoy life a little bit more every day. And I just don't think that we see as much of that these days. Quality of life is a big thing that we overlook a lot, and the best way to start your day is to jump on a bike and go ride to work. So I suggest you all try it out sometime. It's awesome. So yeah, that's me.
That's great. Thank you, Willie. It's always good to hear from our youth. So now I'd like to take an official action here and make a proclamation. If you bear with me, I'm going to read this proclamation, and then I'm going to present it to Senator Harkin. But before we give him the mic, I'm going to turn it over to Mayor Pro Tem Mitch Gross. So the proclamation from the City of Coralville. Whereas Senator Tom Harkin has championed health and wellness, accessibility for all citizens, alternatives to fossil fuel, energy conservation, and land stewardship throughout his career. And whereas his advocacy for trails has helped Iowa to be a national leader in trail development. And whereas, building on his efforts to promote easily accessible wellness initiatives in local communities, and whereas, through his efforts, has secured significant trail funding for the state of Iowa, and whereas, in particular, secured $1.25 million in federal funding for the city of Coralville to build a trailhead project as part of the Clear Creek Trail, and whereas this trailhead has helped people of all abilities to access the Clear Creek Trail and the 330 acres of the Clear Creek Greenbelt. Whereas, Senator Harkin has helped Iowa to become one of the most trail-friendly states in these United States with over 1,675 miles of interconnected multi-use trails. And whereas the City of Coralville recognizes Senator Harkin for his 40 years of service in the United States Congress and his support of Coralville. Now therefore, I, John A. Lundell, do hereby proclaim the trailhead formerly known as the Clear Creek Trailhead, now to be known as the Tom Harkin Trailhead in Coralville. Signed and dated this 20th day of October, John Lundell. Yep. And now I'd like to introduce and bring up Mitch Gross, our council member and mayor pro tem, to say a few words.
Thank you, Mayor Lundell. Senator Harkin is a living example of the American dream. Where else can the son of an immigrant and a coal miner who grew up in a house with no running hot water grow up and become a United States Senator? As a member of the Senate, he's had a long and distinguished career advocating for the working poor, the disabled, children, and many others. What brings us here today, however, is Senator Harkin's tireless commitment to the city of Coralville. Senator, when you entered the Senate in 1984, Coralville had a population of just over 9,000. Today, it's more than doubled. Senator Harkin and his staff have been instrumental not just in the growth and the development of Coralville, but from its recovery of disaster as well. One of my clearest memories of Senator Harkin, of the devastating flood of 2008, was walking around with Senator Harkin in the days after the flood, talking with homeowners and business owners whose lives have been forever changed. Senator Harkin and his office went to work right away trying to help the city, trying to secure as much disaster aid as possible. He was able to secure a $9 million EDA grant for flood mitigation projects along the Crandick Railway. And I'd be remiss if I didn't give a shout out to Richard Bender from Senator Harkin's staff, who played a huge role in that endeavor as well. So given what I just mentioned, why the Tom Harkin Trailhead? Well, the answer is quite simple. Without Senator Harkin's leadership, and more importantly, without his appropriation, this wouldn't exist. 100% of the cost of this trailhead came from the appropriation that Senator Harkin secured. Senator Harkin has been a supporter of both the Clear Creek and the American Discovery Trail System. As chairman of the Senate Committee on Health, Education, Labor, and Pensions, he's advocated issues on health and wellness, which obviously these trail systems do as well. And in case anyone's out of the loop, there's an election being held next week to decide Senator Harkin's replacement. And regardless if it's Senator Ernst or Senator Braley, I hope that Coralville will be able to count on either of them as we have on Senator Harkin. Today's dedication is also personal for me. In 1996, I got my first real taste of public service as an intern in Senator Harkin's Washington office. As a mentor, Senator Harkin has been very influential in my life. He's greatly impacted the type of public servant I try to be. Ladies and gentlemen, it is my honor to present to you a great friend of Coralville, Senator Tom Harkin.
Whoa. Yep. get my notes out of here.
Sign
Oh,
first.
oh my goodness.
So
Okay.
this is what it will look like when it's all installed. We'll have Mayor on one side. You want to go on one side and do the honors?
I feel like we should
And
see each other. Come on, man.
hold on to this because it's
Where's
it's
Lori
just
at?
the replica. Okay. All right. You ready?
Ready? Okay. Great. Blow away.
That'll go out front when it arrives.
Well, thank you all very much. Marilyn Dell, thank you. I really appreciate that very, very, very much. And thanks for all your work in public health through all these years, too. And I see this as a part of public health. That's why I see bike trails and hiking trails and all that. Mark Wyatt, thank you very much for your words and telling us about the economic impact of bike trails. A lot of people don't think about that, the economic impact. I live in a small town of Cumming. When I grew up, we had 2 churches and 2 bars. We got 1 church and 1 bar left, but the bar serves all the bikers that come out on that bike trail out there, and it's become sort of a gathering place for hikers and bicyclists. So that's kind of nice to see. So thank you for mentioning that economic impact. Again, to Will Oxley. Where did Will just disappear to back here? Will, keep biking. You know, and again, to all my public servants who are here, I see Bob, I saw Sally. Who else did I see here? Dave Jacoby was here. I saw Dave. Well, whatever. If there's some the city council members that are here, I know, thank you all very much. And I'd be remiss if I didn't recognize my wife's mentor on the Board of Regents, Bob Downer. Bob, thank you for being here. And I know you and Ruth have a great working relationship on the board. And thank you for your public service on the Board of Regents for the state of Iowa. So I just might say that I'm not one. I've never, in all my years in Washington, I've never had an I Love Me wall. You know what an I Love Me wall is, right? Here's a picture of me with this famous person, picture of me with this famous person. I just don't do that stuff. And I never thought so. What I do have is I have every poster of every RAGBRA I ever run in the state of Iowa in my office. Every single one. And those kinds of things. I do have a picture of me and Ruth many years ago when we started hiking the 14ers out in Colorado. And my goal was to hike them all, but I just didn't. We couldn't. It just didn't work out. But I've hiked quite a few of them. And people always say, "Oh, that was the first 14er." You know what the 14ers are? Mountains that are 14,000 feet above. There's like 52 of them, I think, in Colorado. And so I showed one there. First when we climbed, they said, "Oh, what was that?" And I said, "What do you think would be the first 14er I would climb in Colorado?" Mount Democrat, of course. And I also climbed Mount Iowa, which is nearby, but it's not 14, it's 13,900. It just falls a little bit below 14. And so hiking and mountain climbing, I've climbed Kilimanjaro. That was a tough one, 19,545 feet. That was tough. Rainier was tough. Fuji was not too bad. So I've always enjoyed this and enjoyed hiking. People ask me a lot of times what I'm going to do in retirement. Well, I'll tell you one thing I'm going to do, Sally Stutzman, is I'm going to get on bike trails around the state of Iowa. Now, my wife, Ruth, as Downer probably knows, she bikes a lot around. And when she's here, she's been on a lot of bike trails in Iowa. I it was just about a month or so ago, I was out. I had a day, I guess it was free. And I went up and biked that bike trail that goes across that high trestle bridge by Madrid, Iowa. It's fantastic. I mean, it's mind-boggling what they have done with that bike trail and that old railroad bridge that goes across there. It's just amazing. So there's a lot of bike trails in Iowa that I want to get on.
and hiking trails. So while I may not make it before the snow flies here, I can tell you when the snow melts and it warms up a little bit, I got to do this trail. And I can't wait to do the one when you get it extended all the way out. That'll be fantastic. So that's one of the things I really honestly want to do, is do more bike trails in the state of Iowa. I got to get a bike hitch for the back of the car so I can haul them around and things like that. But it's just one of the things I'm really looking forward to. But Will, or just listening to Will, this is one of my failures. I'm gonna admit to you one of my failures in life. A lot of them. I'll just admit to one. The last highway bill that came up, I was in Europe and doing some bicycling, and I noticed that every new road built, or every road in Europe that's fixed up, extended, or bridge that's built has a bike and walking path attached to it. Oh, I thought that's pretty good. We got to be doing that here. So in the last highway bill, I tried to get an amendment attached. I thought I had the votes for it to do the same thing. I didn't mandate it. What I just said is that in the planning for new highway construction or highway renovation or new bridges or bridge replacements, that in the plans had to incorporate a walking bike path alongside. I didn't say they had to build it, just put it in the plans. I lost it on a vote on the Senate floor. Well, I thought, the next time, however, I'm gonna do a little bit more work on this. I just thought I thought we were going to pass it, and I won't go into why, but a debate ensued, and we had a vote, and I lost it. But I planned for the next highway bill. I said, okay, the next highway bill, we'll get this done. I'll get everybody back of it. I started working on it. We have never had a highway bill since that time. So now I'm leaving, and we still don't have a highway bill. But maybe in the next one, comes up, we can get us all together again, and we can get something attached to the highway bill. And I think it ought to be done. It really ought to be. No bridge ought to be built. No new highway ought to be built without a walking path and a bicycle path attached to it. And anytime we do street improvements, things like that, that ought to be done also. A lot's been mentioned about my involvement in public health. I will tell you that probably the person that had more to do with me getting involved in public health and understanding public health and what it really means is here today, and that's Jim Merchant, right back here. Dr. Jim Merchant, who is the head of the public health school, started this public health school here at the University of Iowa, and was responsible for that beautiful new public health building that we have there. Well, I had a little bit to do with it too. But he was the one that engineered it all. So and he worked in what year were you in my office, Jim? God. 1992. A long time ago. Okay, 1992, when I was in the Senate, worked in my office then, and really, I think really spurred my whole interest in public health in America. And now Sue Curry is here at the public health school here at the University of Iowa. So I see things like this as part of health and wellness. As has been mentioned, it's been a big thing of mine in the Affordable Care Act that we got through. My part of it was wellness and prevention. Everything that's in there that deals with preventive health and wellness programs, that was sort of my contribution to the Affordable Care Act. So as we move ahead, I hope we can see more bike paths, walking paths in Iowa. A long time ago, maybe almost 40 years ago, when I was first in the House, I remember I did a little deal out west of Des Moines, and I was walking. I had a press conference, and a camera showed up, and there was a railroad being abandoned. I don't know which one it was, one of the railroads, and I was kicking the tie and showing how rotted it was. And I said, it's a shame to lose all these railroads, but we ought to keep the land. The land that all these railroads are on ought to be kept by the state. I said, because actually we gave a lot of that land to the railroads to build the railroads, and if you look at the legislation, it was to give the railroads to run a railroad. Well, when they weren't running a railroad any longer, that land had to revert back to the state. Well, some of you may remember battles ensued in the Iowa legislature about what was going to happen to that. And certain groups said it had to be given to the farmers and that kind of thing. What a mistake. What a mistake. Think if we had kept all those railroad lines. Think about the bike trails we would have in Iowa today. Think about the economic impact that that would have, where people would be taking vacations in Iowa and having bicycle paths all over the state on those railroad beds. Some of them we kept. The one that comes through my hometown is an old railroad bed. They kept that, made that a bicycle. Some of them have been kept. But we could have had hundreds and hundreds of miles more of bike paths had to be done that. So let's make sure we don't make any more mistakes. Let's keep setting aside land for hiking, for biking, get our young people involved in going outdoors, staying healthy. In Iowa, I mean, gosh, you get on these bike trails, and you might, it's a little chilly here, and I should shut up because I know you're chilly standing here, and I'm a little late. But this is a perfect day for biking. Yeah, I mean, it's, you know, you work it up, you get a little warm, nice and cool out. This is a perfect day for biking. So why am I not on a bike? Well, well, listen, thank you for naming this trailhead. As I said, I don't have an I Love Me wall. I'm not interested in names on buildings and stuff like that. But if it has to do with health and wellness and things like that, yeah, I really appreciate it. So John, to you and Mitch and to all of you who are here, thanks for this honor. Like I said, if I don't see you before the snow flies on the trail, I'll sure be here next spring. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Senator Harkin, for all you've done and all the years that you've been so great to this entire community. As you've been a great servant. So, but you know, behind every great servant, there's a great staff, and you've had many good staff. Yeah, Richard Bender in particular, but there's one in particular that's got a name kind of similar to yours that lives here in Coralville, and I want to give a shout out to Tom Harkin. That's Tom's been our contact for your office for many years, and it's great that he's a constituent as well. So we appreciate that. So. Well, anyway, thanks for coming out. There are some healthy treats and beverages back there, so feel free to help yourself. Some fruits and drinks back there, and thank you for coming out. Yep.